Wow, fish time.
Wow, fish time. All right. Thank you, Chad. All right. Are you guys ready for Invent a Fish 3? I mean 5. Invent a Fish 5. This is me, by the way, if you didn't know. Rosemary made this. I don't have that long of hair anymore, so this was drawn before I cut my hair, but this is me jumping up and down. If you guys have never seen an Invent a Fish before, basically what happened is all of my viewers have come together to invent the best possible fake fish that they can think of. Habitats, ecosystems, niches that they fill, complicated drawings and diagrams are all being submitted to this competition. And it is up to me and Soph to choose the 16 best submissions, which will face off in a bracket voted on by chat to decide what is the best fish that was submitted to this competition, the best invented fish. When we get to the final 2 fish, the 2 best fish in the competition, the winner is decided completely by luck, by a game of marbles. So the first thing we do is we talk about some awards. Now these fish might have won awards and they might be in the actual top 16, or they might have won awards and they're not in the top 16. Either can happen. So if you see a fish here, congratulations if it's your fish. But don't be discouraged and think that your fish might not be in the top 16. Still possible. The awards change every time. This time we have most effort. Of course, the most effort is a common award. This happens just about every time. The first award is most effort, and this is because we get a lot of very high effort posts. And in fact, as we have gone on, the posts have gotten more and more high effort. So the first competition, I think there was maybe 1 person who submitted a Google document. Most of the submissions were just drawings. This competition, almost every submission had a supporting document with maps and diagrams and anatomical stuff going on. So there was a lot going on this time. And of course, that makes it hard to decide the most effort. But what I decided was the highest effort post was this, a brief and concise guide to the hitchhiker dogfish. Now this is by The Whisperer, and it is a downloadable not even Google Doc, it is a downloadable Word document. And let me show you this Word document. This is no normal Word document, okay? It has a table of contents. It has 15 pages with an overview, taxonomy and phylogeny, body and anatomy, talking about all the different things going on within it. It's biology, it's behavior, it's human impacts and how the humans are impacting it. This is a full-on speculative evolution project. Like, this is something that would be submitted to some kind of speculative evolution project. So this one had a ton of effort go into it. The fish itself is somewhat interesting, though not particularly unique, but it is kind of interesting. And there is a lot of just so much effort and information, and I felt that I had to, of course, recognize the amount of effort that went into that. So thank you, The Whisperer. Our second award is the Nepotism Award, which is the I wouldn't normally include this, but my friends made it, so I'd feel bad if I didn't include it award. And this is, of course, created by Robo and Justin, and this is the spiky bomb fish. Robo and Justin created it, and I had to give them the Nepotism Award because I would feel bad not including them at all. So they got the Nepotism Award. Next up, we have our favorites. So when Soph and I went through all of the submissions, all of the possible submissions to Invent a Fish, we had to choose what are our favorite 2. What was my favorite and what was Soph's favorite. And Soph's favorite, unsurprisingly, was called the Bubble-Cheeked Mud Skipper. And the Bubble-Cheeked Mud Skipper is just very cute. I mean, I don't think anyone is surprised. Soph coined the term sweet booby. And so she obviously enjoys very cute things, and it shouldn't be surprised at all that an extremely cute mud skipper would become her favorite choice. This is the document that was attached to them. My favorite is Captain Stroon's Romero's Remora. And this one had a lot of information going on, but the basic idea is it's a group of remoras that get together in a circle. So those remoras, which attach themselves onto sharks, basically gather in this circular formation and live symbiotically with each other. There's a lot more information on that, so feel free to read as you'd like to. So I really enjoyed this one. And with that, we have the honorable mentions. Now, these are the ones that just barely didn't make top 16. So if you don't know how it works, basically we'll assemble like the top 30 or so picks, basically anyone we think could make top 16. And then we go through and one by one eliminate ones that we think probably won't be in the top 16. And so these are the last two submissions eliminated. So these were basically 17th and 18th, the honorable mentions. So the first one is by Amy. This is the Goliath Goldfish. Amy had two really good submissions, but this one we liked a good amount. Just very pretty. I mean, there's nothing particularly interestingly unique about them other than that they're big goldfish and they have the moss and everything, which is I think why they didn't end up making the top 16, but they are very pretty. So thank you, Amy, for the submission. And then our second runner-up is called the Luminant Lamprey. This one I just particularly found somewhat interesting. It's just a type of lamprey that looks like a Pokemon. I mean, it looks like a fucking Porygon or something. It resembles a Pokemon more than it does anything else, and I just think it's super cute. So this was one of the last ones eliminated, so this is also one of the runner-ups. So these are the 16 invented fish from this time around that will be competing head-to-head in the bracket to decide the winner of this 4-month stretches. I don't know how long it's been since the last invented fish. This stretches best invented fish. So our first member of the top 16 is called Deep Sea Life of the Great Divide. Now this one's really interesting. You might be looking at these pictures and saying, well, that's a little weird. I wonder how this one made it in. Well, that's because this one was extremely unique. This entire document is basically 10 pages of a horror story. And it guides you through with basically documentation like you would have in Subnautica, voice lines. There's an entire story that guides you through, images to keep you entrenched in the story. Talks about the different families and the actual science of it as you move deeper down into the water, the weird and scary things you're seeing, and ends with a jump scare. Kind of a jump scare, but just a very creepy thing. And this one was just really unique. I had never seen something like this before. This was the first time I had seen someone submit what is essentially a horror story mixed with a invented fish. I thought it was a cool idea. It's perfect for Halloween, and I had never seen anything like it. So I figured they deserve to be in the top 16. We'll see if you guys like the idea of the horror story fish. All right, our second member in the top 16 is the Electric Dust Delver. Now this one's really cool. I really just like the idea. It's basically sort of like a stargazer type monkfish thing. And of course it has a Google Doc because all of them have Google Docs. And it sits under in the mud and its whiskers have electricity. And so they look sort of like a kelp on the thing and the fish will swim in between it and then get electrocuted, which I thought was a really cool and interesting idea. So I included that one in the top 16.
Poggers.
All right, the next one we have is The Myth by Nick Y. Now this one didn't have anything insanely interesting about it, but I really love the design. Just like the way this is drawn and these color morphs are just really sick. Like if I'd had to design a really cool fish, I feel like this one here would be probably the coolest fish that I could think of. So they're highly social animals. They've got some cool stuff about them you can read about in the document, but these are very pretty. The next one is, again, a unique art style. So this is, I believe it's watercolor. It's clearly not done digitally. This is done clearly on a canvas of some sort. And it is the Giant Land Angler. So there's a couple things I like about this. It is from the future, for one, and it's just a cool art style. Usually we just get a bunch of cool digital art, and while digital art is really awesome, I think it's super cool to have some people who are, making art in other ways. Like we've seen videos, we've seen sculptures, now we've seen like a story told through a fish and a watercolor. I think it's a watercolor. I don't know. I'm not very good at art, but I really love the style. So that's Veggie Nuggets. Sorry, I'm covering Veggie Nuggets' name. It's hard to not cover something, but Veggie Nugget down there, congratulations on making the top 16. Then we have the Dionysus Shark by Mothman. Now this one has, well, more than a Google document. It has a 12-page presentation. Overview, sexual dimorphism, adolescence, dietary habits, adaptive history, including a diagram of the skull, nomenclature, So there's a lot of information on this this Dionysus shark. They're super cool. They have basically pearlescence in their scales, which causes them to sparkle. Only the males have that, which is, I think sexual dimorphism isn't particularly common in sharks, so it's actually an even more unique thing that it's in a shark. So I thought that one was particularly cool, and there was a lot of information. Next up, we have the deep sea fish mimic. I just like this one. This drawing, I just think is super sick. The idea of being in that tiny submarine and there's this gigantic, gorgeous fucking... it looks kind of like this looks like the head of a viper fish, but then it's put onto this really long, giant body with a ton of really cool fins. This is done by Neo Yin. Once again, I am covering the name, I'm sorry, but Neo Yin. We'll talk about it more. Star Wars Episode 1 vibes. I haven't seen Star Wars, so I can't concur, but if you think it has Star Wars vibes, then that's fine. All right, the next fish is called the Pitfall Ray Galaxy. So this one is a manta ray combined with carnivorous plants. So it's some sort of like scientific genetics mixing, which shouldn't be mixed. So the wings on the manta ray, that's me. The wings on the manta ray are Venus flytraps. So in addition to being a filter feeder through its mouth like a normal manta ray, its fins are also able to filter feed. So extra filter feeding, but this one could probably eat larger things because they're like Venus flytraps. So this one could probably eat meat like a carnivorous plant. So I thought this one was super sick. Then we have the Ostia saxum. Now this one reminds me a lot of, and I think it's probably designed out of one of the things you would find in Ark. One of those little papers that would come up when you opened a chest in Ark. I think this one is really good. I just love the design. I mean, the fish itself is obviously cool. But just the design of the sheet and everything is just fucking awesome. It's so cool. I just love like the idea of this like document. Like it looks like, I wish all like fish describing books looked like this, you know what I mean? Like I have Peterson's Field Guide to Fish over there, and it's just like black and white pages with like basic shitty descriptor text in Times New Roman. I wish I could open like the world of fishes and have all of them described and drawn like this so beautifully. All right, next up we have a submission by Feld. This is the red tide swallow shark. So it's a pretty cool shark, and there is, of course, a Google Doc, because there's almost always a Google Doc now. You have its area in the dead zone around the... Is this the Gulf of Mexico? Oh my god, I was assuming this was the Mediterranean the entire time I was reading this. So I would guess around the Gulf of Mexico. There's different color variants between the males and females. It's got all sorts of cool things going on. If you didn't know, red tide is basically like a large eutrophication, a large algal bloom. These guys are involved with that. This one is called the Shell Thief, and this one is just adorable. I think this guy fills this year's adorable, or this competition's adorable fish award. Their range is essentially everywhere. I don't even know why they need a range map. This is like every single place in the world. And as you'd expect, they live inside of shells, similar to how hermit crabs would do. But they're eels, which makes sense. They can fit inside the shells really well. Then we have Nighthair's submission. Soph shooed this one in because she thought it was very pretty. It's basically a whale shark mixed with a manta ray, and then it's got all these crazy color morphs. So I had a feeling you guys would like this one and vote for it. This is all of the information. Nighthair did not provide a ton of information. So we don't know anything about particularly unique adaptations or anything like that. All we know is that a manta ray was mixed with a whale shark, and that's what we have now. Next up, we have another art style. I wanted to include one that was black and white drawn with a pencil, and this one was the coolest by far. I really love this one by Doodlebug. This is the scorpion eel. It's just such a sick drawing. I love these. I love black and white. I just have a soft spot for sketch stuff. So the scorpion eel is pretty cool. It's an eel with, you know, as you would expect, a scorpion tail with venom. Like those have. So just another art style to throw in there. Then we have the mossy stargazer. So stargazers, if you don't know, they're pretty common around me. They're common all around the East Coast, actually probably all around the world. They're the guys that sit on the bottom and look up and are super creepy, and they're always in like the top 10 scariest or most dangerous fish videos. And this guy has adapted to blend in with his environment. He's green, and he's got all of the things growing on him, and then he has a symbiotic relationship. Oh, that's me again. Symbiotic relationship with something called a defender crab. And the defender crab, well, as you would expect, defends the mossy stargazer. So pretty cool. There's a lot of information on this guy. I can't even fit it all. You guys are starting to submit so much information that I can't submit it. I can't fit it in one slide, which is a problem. Like, I need to be able to fit the things on the slides. After that, we have, of course, Romero's remora. Although this was my favorite fish, this is also, of course, going to be a top 16 fish. I mean, this one's fucking amazing. There's no reason this would not be in the top 16. So this will also be participating. Then we've got the stratum ray. Now this guy has another presentation, another 11-page PowerPoint presentation. This guy lives on Jupiter's moon. I believe it's Jupiter's largest moon, Europa. And the fish, it basically has the genetics from Arctic fish, which have these things in their blood, antifreeze proteins in their blood, which make it so that their blood doesn't freeze. And that's how they live in these freezing cold Arctic waters. And it has that, and it lives on Europa's moon, and it practices chemosynthesis, like a lot of microorganisms do at the hydrothermal vents at the bottom of our oceans. Then, this is our final for the top 16. We have the thermal blade eel from Questioning Lemon Shark. I like the Latin name, Calidum ferrum. It's just a super sick eel, which uses electricity to heat a plate on the front of its head and fin. So you know those like really satisfying videos where they heat a knife up until it's like magma and then like cut through something that they shouldn't be able to cut through? This eel can basically do that. We have our 16 best submissions here in the top 16, and we have our bracket. It's time to see what's going on in the bracket. So, our seeds have been randomly decided, so who faces what is decided almost entirely randomly by the seeding chart. And now we have to vote until we get down to the final two. So we're going to start off here with the voting with the Pitfall Ray Galaxy versus the Electric Dust Delver. Who wins? This is the Pitfall Ray Galaxy. It's the manta ray, which has the Venus flytraps for wings. And the Electric Dust Delver is the fish that sits on the bottom and has those kelp-like whiskers, which allow it to shock the things above it and eat them. So you guys will decide. I think we'll see how many people are voting, and based on that, we'll decide when we're going to stop votes, like what amount of votes. Seems like maybe 100 is the right amount. Well, actually, it's still going up decently. We'll see. So unfortunately, it seems like the Pitfall Ray Galaxy will be eliminated. Congratulations to the Electric Dust Delver for moving on to the next round. All right, next up we have, oh, this is a tough one. Stratum Ray versus Romero's remora. So Romero's remora is, of course, this beautiful artwork with the remoras that gather in a circle pattern like this. And the Stratum Ray is, of course, the 11-page PowerPoint about the ray which lives on Europa, Jupiter's moon. So those are the two that you're deciding between. This guy here and this guy, they're right next to each other in the competition. Maybe I'll let it run a little bit longer. It's pretty close. So I think if we get to 100 and there's still votes coming in, it's pretty close. I'll run it a little bit longer. It does seem like the remora is going to win, though. Unless a bunch of Stratum Ray believers come in right about now. I think Romero's remora is going to take this one. That is an unfortunate first round, but it had to happen eventually. Only one can win the competition. Seems that the Stratum Ray will be the one eliminated, unfortunately. Thank you for the submission, Gima. Which means that Captain Stroon's Romero Remora, Captain Stroon, a frequent competitor in this competition, I believe has submitted a fish to every single Invent a Fish competition and usually does pretty well. Captain Stroon is a really talented artist. Next up, we have the clash of the interesting art styles. The giant land angler versus the deep sea life of the Great Divide. So this is, of course, the horror story fish, which guides you through, I believe it is, what, 10 pages of a horror story with documentation and voice lines and an entire story with the drawing of the fish, versus I believe it's watercolor drawing of the giant land angler. So you guys are deciding between art styles here. We've got a fish that is told through story. We don't even really know what it looks like. We just know the horror story around it versus this futuristic, amazing paint drawing here. I think this is the first time I've had a fish submitted that we don't even really know what it looks like. Like, we're voting for a fish that we don't even have a good concept of. Like, this is the best picture provided, basically, of the fish. This, I guess, is a better picture as well, but it's very interesting. But it does seem like the story will win out over the giant land angler. So thank you for the submission of the giant land angler, but congratulations. The deep divide will move on. The great divide will move on. Next up, we have the... Okay, this is a classic. This is more what we expect from the Invent-A-Fish competitions. We have the Myth versus the Mossy Stargazer. So this is the Myth, which is the multiple colored manta ray looking guys that are really cool, versus this Stargazer, which has the ability to blend into the bottom. I have a feeling I know what you guys are going to go with just based on cuteness, but we'll see. Both are options at this moment. Myth, of course, I'll open the document just for more information. Wingspan of 12 to 18 feet. They've got these different patterns on their body. They're very social animals, but can reproduce asexually. But it seems like what I'm saying doesn't matter anyways. You guys have voted for the Myth without even needing my input. So congratulations to the Myth for moving on. All right, next up, we've got the Deep Sea Fish Mimic versus Osteosaxum. Oh, this is a tough one. On the right, once again, they're right next to each other. So this is the archetype artwork with this gorgeous, gigantic fish versus this awesome viper, giant extended viper mythical creature. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these won the competition. So the fact that they are facing off in the first round is rough, but that is how random seeding goes. It's interesting because I feel like if this person drew the same thing, but did the information like this, they might win. Like, this fish is cooler necessarily, but just the amazing artwork that goes into having like a document page like this would probably give it the win. It seems like the Deep Sea Mimic has lost. Thank you, Neo Yin, for the submission. An Osteosaxum by the Real Val will move on. Next up, we have the Shell Thief versus the Dionysus Shark. So this is, if you do not remember, the Dionysus Shark has the 12-point PowerPoint about everything about the shark. It has the glittery scales. It's a shark, hammerhead type shark with glittery scales. Versus the Shell Thief, which is this little eel guy that lives in snail shells. Yep, it seems like the Dionysus shark. I mean, putting in the effort is going to get you the results a lot of the time. We do sometimes live in a capitalist society, and having a 12-page document will beat out these 2 pages of information, even if the concept isn't necessarily better. And that is unfortunately how it is. Congratulations to the Dionysus shark on this one. The next one up is the red tide swallow shark. I'm just going to put up swallow shark versus the manta whale. They didn't really give it a name, so I'm calling it the manta whale. So this is the manta whale. So the red tide swallow shark, basically a shark thriving in the area where there's frequently large algal blooms in the red tide, versus the manta whale, which you guys all said had to win because it was so cute. But where are the votes now, chat? Seems pretty clear at this point the swallow shark is going to take down the manta whale, despite all of your big talk about how the manta whale is going to win because you value cuteness more than productivity. All right, and then our final match of the first round is 2 eels facing off in 2 very different art styles. We've got the thermal blade eel versus the scorpion eel. I will pull those up to remind you guys what they look like. So this is the scorpion eel, the sketch drawing, versus this very nice digital drawing of the eel that heats up to cut through stuff like a hot knife. But it seems like you guys have a very clear preference for the scorpion eel, which I was not expecting. So congratulations. I think this is the first time a sketch drawing has made it to the second round. And with that, we have decided our top 8. Our top 8 fish here. They will now compete 4 different matches to determine the top 4 fish of the competition, which will be the last time that you guys get to vote. All right, next up, we have the Electric Dust Delver versus Romiro's Remora. This is going to be a tough one. You guys really like the Dust Delver. Of course, this is the fish, which sits below and has the electric whiskers. And it is facing off against the Romiro's Remora, this beautiful grouping of remoras where each one is stuck onto the one next to it, which is stuck onto the one next to it. Interesting. Well, Romiro's Remora, my favorite fish, the one that I had predicted to win the competition because I thought it was the coolest by far, and I really love Captain Stroon's drawings, has unfortunately been eliminated. Congratulations to the Dust Delver, moving on to the top 4. All right, next up, we've got Deep Sea Life versus the Myth. Now this is, wow. This is two very different submissions here. We've got the Myth, which is quite literally just an asexual social manta ray with cool patternings, versus an entire horror story around a fish, which still has not been fully visually revealed. This is 2 very different submissions. This is all at 102 votes, and it was dead even in terms of votes. I'm going to have to leave this one for a little bit. It is way too close to call. If you have not voted yet, oh my god, it's 50-50 at 112 votes. If you have not voted yet, now is the time to vote. Even if you haven't voted in anything, or even if you don't care, you have the power right now. Even if you don't care who wins, you can change something that 118 people have voted for. 120 people have voted, and your vote could be the one that decides who wins. I think the Deep Sea Life horror story, oh yeah, it's out of reach for Deep Sea Life, for the Myth. Unfortunately, the cute one has lost again, and despite everything that you guys have said, the cute fish loses once again. Congratulations to the Deep Sea Life, really unique concept, and is making it way further than I thought it would. Next up, we have Osteosaxum versus the Dionysus shark. Now this is interesting. I mean, they all get interesting as you go along in the competition, but what we're dealing with here, keep in mind, is the arc drawing, this beautiful arc imagination art, versus the 12-page or 12-slide PowerPoint about the glitter shark. Keep in mind, chat, I didn't really mention it, but the prize, if you get first place, is you get free merch from my store. All of these wonderful designs to add to your collection. And it looks like the Osteosaxum is one step closer to doing so. Scorpion eel versus swallow shark. Scorpion eel, of course, being this sketch drawing of the large, cool eel with the scorpion tail attached to it. And the swallow shark, of course, being the shark in the Gulf of Mexico that is capitalizing off of red tides, which are frequently happening here around Louisiana with algal blooms. Makes some really gross oceans, and this guy is dealing with it. It is not rigged. It is completely democratic. You can go back through the VOD and count every single vote in the chat if you would like to do so. And if you did that, you would come to the exact same conclusion that my poll did, which is that the scorpion eel has won over the swallow shark. Thank you to Feld for submitting the swallow shark. Now we are deciding our top 2. The winner of this will face off in a completely random game of marbles to decide who is the winner of this Invent a Fish. The loser is out of the competition. All right, and our first one up is you guys' 2 favorites, the Dust Delver versus the Deep Sea Divide. This Dust Delver that you guys love the idea of sitting under the ground and electrocuting the fish as they come by, versus the well-written horror story involving the fish. No bias here. I'll flip back and forth between them over and over again, so you can't say I'm influencing the poll. All right, it seems like, unfortunately, though the horror story was a really interesting idea for a submission, and I look forward to hopefully seeing more unique submissions like that in the future, it seems like the Dust Delver, and I would have never expected this, is going to be moving on to the top 2 to compete. I would have never expected this. And that means that there's only one vote left, chat. This is the last thing you get to vote on until the next Invent a Fish, and that is the Osteosaxum versus the scorpion eel. So vote carefully. Think hard and vote carefully, because you will not get to vote again. this round. Wow, what a crazy last vote of the day. I'm going to go ahead and call it. It is 71 to 68 votes. Congratulations to the Osteosaxum. What an intense vote. The most votes we got by far, 139 votes. That is the most people that have ever voted in one of those, I think, by a good amount. So congratulations. Fair and square, going to move on to the finals. We have decided the top 2 democratically. Now it is time to decide the number 1 very undemocratically. I can do the thing, right? How do I do this thing? Add names. All right. Oh, that's right. Last time we did 10. Oh, and we put Flop in once. I forgot about that. I'm not going to add Flop. Flop can't possibly win. Okay, fine. 1 Flop. 1 Flop. Are you guys ready to decide the winner of this competition? I don't know what's going to happen if Flop wins. I don't know what I'm supposed to do if that's going to happen, but we'll see. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Flop in... Is this first place for Flop? Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. This can't happen. Flop wasn't even submitted to this competition. Okay. Flop, could you slow down, please? Flop, could you slow down? Oh no. Oh no. Wait. It's looking like Osteosaxum has the lead, but it has a worse angle? They're both gonna hit the wall like that. It knocks it in? Oh, I thought Flop came in last minute and stuck it away. Holy shit, that was so close. Flop came in hot and almost just stole it. Oh, that's crazy. Well, GG's everybody. The Osteosaxum
down with the democracy
is officially the winner of Invent-A-Fish 5. Congratulations to the real Vol. I will DM you on Discord. I don't know if you're in chat. I haven't seen your name, but I will DM you on Discord to ask you what merch you want from my beautiful merch store. And you guys should all get merch too. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. I hope you guys had a wonderful time. And congratulations to Osteosaxum and to the real Vol. Bye.